Hey everybody, I'm State Senator Jen McEwen. I represent Duluth in the Minnesota State Senate.
And I'm Ashley Grimm. I'm St. Louis County Commissioner for the western half of Duluth.
And this is our podcast.
Yay! Do we want to talk for a moment, since this is our first podcast, about why a podcast, like what we hope to do with it?
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Commissioner Ashley Grimm is my good friend, and the two of us often talk about politics here, happening in Duluth and happening regionally, happening statewide, and even national sometimes. But we bounce things off one another, and we have conversations that are really helpful for me. And in the work that we do as a county commissioner, as a state senator, sometimes that work can feel very isolating, especially if you are somebody who is perhaps a more kind of left of center person in your politics, and you end up voting in the minority or very much in the minority at times. And so we thought that it might be helpful for ourselves, and also just for building community here in Duluth, just to open up our conversations to more people and to have those conversations in a more public way so that people can hear the things that we're thinking about in our local politics, the things that we wish we had more help with, the things that we're wondering about, we have questions about, just to kind of have that conversation in a more open forum.
Yeah.
So I've been really hungry for that kind of building more of that space, I guess is the best way to say it.
I really felt that way too. I think it's been really normalizing, and at the same time, I think there has been a missed opportunity sometimes locally to really do some issue framing. Mm-hmm. The idea that I've been told since being in office has just been stay in your lane, and oftentimes things are killed behind the scenes.
Oh gosh, yes.
And what I've seen then is the best medicine is daylight.
Yes.
It is truly, I mean, we're going to talk about the county budget and the levy and some pet projects that are being funded. And one of the things that was said to me, which I knew was coming, is, oh, it's because you didn't get your way, Ashley Grimm. And I think this podcast and like the work that we do is actually about saying pretty radically, this is not about us.
Yeah.
It's not. This is about the ideas that we share. It's about if we have childcare. It's about if we have housing. It's about if kids are getting their way, right? If childcare providers are getting their way. And so I'm glad that we're kind of taking this opportunity to get some more issue framing out there.
Yeah.
And hopefully call in people when there's opportunities too.
Yeah. I think that's so exactly right too, about so much of what happens in our politics, whether it's at the county or the state level, and I think at the city level too, happens sort of behind the scenes, and the forces that are at work and at play oftentimes aren't even picked up in the media or talked about openly. And you'll even find that a lot of elected officials are uncomfortable talking about those things. Like they know how to go along to get along. They know how to kind of play the game, and they don't reveal to people in the community sort of what are those forces at work that are actually driving things or stopping things from happening, or, propelling things forward that you wouldn't want to be propelled forward. So there's just a lot of sort of keeping things quiet and kind of shoving things under the rug that I think both of us struggle with a lot and try to push back against. Yeah. So hopefully this podcast can help with that.
Because I think the unsaid reality of that is that you're either reinforcing the system or you're creating something different. Even if you win within that system by reinforcing it, you're just making this narrower pathway. Yeah. And we don't have to. We just don't.
We don't.
So, yeah. Radical idea
Nice.
number one.
Love it. So how have you felt about the week in our local politics? Any notable things that you want to talk about?
I don't have the deep dive into this one, but when you as a community member email your city councilors, you can press email all city councilors, and it also contacts the press, and so you don't have to compile a list of Star Trib, Duluth News Tribune, all of that. It flags it for reporters that this might be something that people are interested in.
And it was a really easy way to just email all of the counselors. If you weren't sure like who is the best person on a certain issue or different counselors specializing in different, you could just send it to all.
Yeah.
And then also the press would see it. And so also it was this nice way to have like big, like kind of register what your issue is with all of them and also with the press. Yeah. But now, as we understand it, they're removing that.
Yep, just gone.
It's just gone.
So a small but important thing.
It is, yeah, it is. And so I wonder. So now, if you have an issue with the Duluth City Council, you will have to, like, if you want to email all of the counselors and maybe some key press people at the Duluth News Tribune or any of the networks or not, you'd have to like literally find all those email addresses and put them in there. Is that right, do you think?
Yeah, get ready to become an expert at creating your own press releases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, if anybody has any tips about any better way to do it, or if we're wrong about this, let us know. But that's what we're hearing. We're hearing they just got rid of it. And so, yeah, that'll be a tool that's missing. Yeah. But one thing, a couple of things that I was really pleased to see the Duluth City Council take action on just this last week was both a resolution in support of the LGBTQ plus community. And I know that Councillor Owl and Councillor Durwalker, and I'm not sure if there were other councillors involved in the work on that or not, but they worked really hard to get that across. And I just think it was really good because I know that I see a lot of the time, I notice that there are a lot of counselors who are really reluctant to weigh in on what they see are sort of larger issues that don't have to do with paying for our streets or actual municipal administration things at the city. And I think that while I understand some concern around that, there are issues that touch all of us and that really, really matter within our community and that matter for us as a community to make like a statement of sort of where we're at, what we support, the kinds of policies that we do support. And so I was really, really glad to see that actually was passed into law. I know that I think there were a couple of counselors who might have voted against that, but that it passed. Yeah. And so I felt really good about that. And I'm also really excited that they passed a resolution to create a transportation commission. Yeah. So we have all of these great opportunities for improving transportation in Duluth. And that includes just seeing transportation in a more holistic way, right? It's about like the movement of people around our community, the movement of people to work, to see friends, to go shopping, to go to the library, to get around, to do all the things that we do. Yeah. And it's not all about how to get a car from point A to point B. It has to be more holistic than that and better than that. So like the planning, the community involvement, how to make our city feel more welcoming for everybody, whether they're driving or walking or riding their bike or I'm excited for the work that group, the potential of the work they could do.
I guess say about that too, I've been wondering a lot about the snowplow routes for the sidewalks, and I wonder if that's a space where there can be a real push to say we need an actual plan for our sidewalks.
That'd be so great.
I've talked to some senior living facilities really close by where there's seniors who say they are basically homebound for the whole winter. Yeah. Because even if their closest bus stop gets plowed out, they don't know if where they're going to get dropped off will be plowed out. So.
Yeah, and then just to get around. Yeah, I know that there was a movement also in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis to have sidewalk plowing be taken up by the municipality.
Yeah.
Yeah, as part of the public service of plowing. At least there would be certain designated routes that would be plowed out.
And that makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense, yeah. So, you just took a vote against the county levy that came up.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you can tell me and us about what the county levy is.
Yeah.
Sort of like, imagining as if you were just talking to like I don't know, maybe a 5th or 6th grader.
Yeah.
Explain it to us like we really don't know what this is.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then I have a lot of questions about your vote and about what happened. Yeah.
Thanks. Mm-hmm. The short and the long of it is it's the percentage that we're increasing that pot of money that taxpayers
are going to have to put in
yes.
to the county budget.
Yes.
Got it.
And okay. 12.4 is high. It's the highest I've seen.
Okay.
On the county.
It feels high.
Yeah.
It feels like a lot. So can you tell us a little bit about sort of like, so there's this proposal that was brought forward for this 12.4% increase. And so when that comes before you, what are the kind of things that you were weighing and thinking about as you were going into thinking like, is this something that I should go ahead and vote for, even though this is a lot, this is really high? Or maybe I shouldn't vote against it, or maybe I should vote against this. And like, what are some of the things that you're kind of weighing when you're thinking about your vote?
Yeah. So I would say, and this is something I'm glad that we're able to do a deeper dive into too, because there's this idea that people on the left, or if you're a Democrat or liberal or whatever, that you are a spendthrift, right? Like, and one of the things that's very important to me, and I see important to my allies too, is that we know in tough budget years, and every year, you make sure that every dollar is spent on high priority items.
Yeah.
So in some ways, there's a lot in our budget that's good. We are supporting staff. We are supporting their health care. We're keeping competitive wages. For instance, when Aspirus, I always say that wrong.
Yeah, Aspirus, I think, yeah.
When Aspirus took over St. Luke's, what we're seeing is a 17% increase in the cost of care. We self-insure as a county, which is great.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing in those claims is 17% increase. So things like that really then drive up our healthcare costs.
All the costs.
So there's work that staff has done that has been incredible. And at the same time, something no one would have heard about unless I flagged it in the budget, and this is what was contentious, is there's also some leeway and some pet projects.
Yeah.
So Keith Nelson is the commissioner from Virginia, and a lot of this is just going to be my opinion, but you can see it in the votes, is he carries a lot of weight on the county board. The county board has 4 votes outside of Duluth, 3 votes in Duluth, and that's a constant tension.
Sure.
So Commissioner Nelson says he's not going to run again, and so something I've seen as kind of a legacy project that he's brought up is that he wants to take this year to build an endowment. And he wants to set aside $2 to $5 million to pay for scholarships off the interest of just that $2 to $5 million.
Okay.
And the thing to note about those scholarships is that we already have a mineral royalties funding stream that pays for them. They're about $200,000 a year. And just recently, it also started to include some folks from the building trades. So, which I think is a good thing.
This stream, yeah. So there is this stream for mineral revenues that does provide a certain number of scholarships for students in St. Louis County.
Yeah.
And that recently, you're saying, expanded to include some of the trades as well. Then do we know like how many scholarships we're talking about? Is it funded? Are is the need fully met? Are there still like students that don't get scholarships who wanted them?
Right.
What does that look like with the current program?
So I believe it funds about 24 scholarships.
Okay.
And something important that happened that was actually a state shift
Mm-hmm.
is the state has made it so that anyone whose family earns under $80,000 a year is already covered.
Yeah, we have the Minnesota Promise program, which was carried forward by my good friend, Senator Omar Fateh. And he is also the chair of the Higher Ed Committee in the Senate. And he brought this proposal that it was at the time, initially when he brought it, was that we should be paying as a state for all of our public education, really pre-K through college, but he was looking at college. Like, we should be paying for all of the students who go to our public colleges, including the entire U system, including community college, including the trades. Like, this should be a public good that we all have. And this has happened, and there are other states who've taken steps in this direction as well. So we do have the Minnesota Promise program, which I'm really excited about. And because of budget limitations, they had to squeeze it down to that $80,000 per household means testing, which I hate, but it's a beginning of something. And it covers, actually, I mean, if you look at the median income of a household in Minnesota, that covers most households. So yeah, it's a great program. So we have this. So then the county, St. Louis County, has the scholarship program.
Yes.
So then, who are the scholarships going into? Well, I should say, so people understand, the Minnesota Promise program is also like what people refer to as a last dollar in program.
Yes.
So
this is important.
Yeah. So if people, other scholarships, people are still encouraged to go out and get other scholarships, seek out other financial grants and such. And then anything that is left over, the state of Minnesota will pay. So,
which is very smart.
And it's also, because of budgetary reasons, that's sort of what we had to start with.
Yeah.
But so in this case, all these students who are getting these scholarships from St. Louis County, they would get that. And if their families are making $80,000 or less per year, then the state of Minnesota would cover the difference. But the state of Minnesota was going to cover that anyway.
Yeah. So either the choice from the county on these scholarships is either pay for what the state will already pay for, but do it exclusively with your property taxes, or pay exclusively for students making $80,000 or more. And I think there's arguments for that. The third option that the county is going with is not only do that, right? But set aside a pot of money that's being built to be almost $5 million, and then guarantee that in perpetuity we will always hold on to that pot of money and pay for those scholarships, even if universal coverage for secondary education passes. Once it's in an endowment, it's very hard to even get out of that endowment. So what I had said is, this is a low priority area. We are really, really struggling as a county, and so we should talk about putting that towards childcare or paying down our debt and reducing the levy.
Because that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. It is.
And the other thing that I hope people understand about this whole scholarship issue is that, so if I'm understanding this right, correct me if I'm wrong. So for the state of Minnesota has sort of guaranteed that families where they make $80,000 or less a year, that those kids, when they're going into college, that's going to be covered. We're going to make sure that's covered, regardless of what scholarships you get. So the scholarships that would be coming from St. Louis County for those families, kids, that's just like property taxes that St. Louis County taxpayers are paying in scholarships, which is a nice sentiment.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's good. But right now, the state of Minnesota is going to cover that. And that's actually the revenue that we get for the state of Minnesota comes actually from more progressive income taxes.
That's very important.
That is really important, right? I mean, and so when you're comparing the types of taxation, the state of Minnesota taxes people from their paychecks. And if you make more, you pay more. But if you're a property taxpayer, it's based on the value of your property. So there are a lot of people who end up getting hit hard by property taxes who maybe wouldn't want to get hit hard in that way, like retired people on fixed incomes and that sort of thing.
Yep, absolutely.
Ugh. Okay, so this is the decision that the county is making, that they're looking at. Not only do they already have a stream for providing these scholarships, but they're looking at saying, well, we want to, as part of the legacy for this retiring commissioner, we want to create a trust fund for more scholarships.
For the same scholarships.
That are already being funded.
Yep, that are funded by the state, and that if the state doesn't fund them, we have mineral royalties. It's the same scholarships. It's not even making more scholarships. It's just, it's the same. I'm sorry, that's just kind of funny
that's important to know. Yeah, I am so
it's just guaranteeing them forever, even if the landscape totally changes.
So it's just creating this big, beautiful trust fund.
Big, beautiful trust.
To pay for scholarships that are already being paid for, that are guaranteed already by the state of Minnesota.
Yes, yes. At a time when we will not use that money for childcare, right?
Yeah, right.
So when
we have a literal childcare emergency in our county.
Yeah. Something that really struck me. So first is that no one calls it a legacy project, but behind closed doors, everyone knows it's a legacy project. It's one of those unsaid things. I pushed for about a year, kind of behind the scenes, but the sentiment was, nope, this is important to Commissioner Nelson. That's the way these things get passed. And so by making it public, that was the big faux pas, but it's an important thing to do because otherwise these things are just getting through behind the scenes. So at least now we know there's currently $2 million in a pre-endowment fund. Mm-hmm. They are working to make it $5 million. Is $4 or $5 million is the push. There's also other huge pots of money that we could use for childcare. Yeah. So, for example, one-time funds. We are funding the depot. Mm-hmm. About $16 million, I think, and we were going to put $6 million down and then take out money for $10 million. Yeah. But instead, we took out $16 million so that then we would have some flexibility for economic development projects. Well, has anyone heard about the economic development projects? It's not a public process.
Money that could be going to childcare, for example, is being set aside for economic development projects, but it's not clear what those projects are. Is it clear even where they are? Do we even know? Is there any restrictions put on the money for those?
There's no restrictions. There's
just economic development.
Some leeway within the budget. Some of it isn't even classified as economic development. Oh, okay. But in internal talks, that's how it's viewed. But that's the problem, is that it's all internal talks. Yeah. So when people say that there's not money for childcare, there is one-time funding. There's short-term funding. Yeah. We use it for companies, oftentimes in good ways. And for Sofidel, that was a good investment. Yeah. I'm biased because that's my district I represent. But
but sometimes there are projects that when you look at it, does make sense to sort of provide a little bit of a boost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the main problem is when it's not public.
When there's no transparency around it, people don't know what that large chunk of money is going to be going for or is being set aside for.
Yeah. And it's mainly directed by kind of commissioners and egos and making sure that you don't make anyone upset is the push. So,
yeah.
So that's
frustrating. Yeah.
That's kind of the rundown of where things stand. Mm-hmm. The great part about it is that even though the maximum levy is set, our budget isn't. So our budget gets set by the end of the year, and there's still lots of time for people to mobilize, to come up with ideas. I'm working with childcare providers and with community members.
Excellent.
To help push these plans to help stabilize a lot of childcare centers and add staff staff, reduce administrative costs and burden, and to help repair roofs, do the infrastructure repair.
Yeah, take some of that burden off of those care centers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you think is sort of the takeaway that people, like, if you could kind of sum it up and tell people, like, what do you really want them to take away from our discussion about where the county budget is going forward, what this levy vote was all about, and what's going on?
Yeah. I want people to know that there is money to do the things that we're asking for, like provide childcare, like provide housing or help people provide it, right?
Yeah.
But that right now, there is such a push to spend that on legacy projects and pet projects and to appease, in particular, one commissioner. And you can't do both. You can't give away millions of dollars on these low priority projects and have childcare.
And have enough money for the things that you need.
Yeah.
Right.
And so one example of this is the YWCA was in talks with us to see if, before they transition to Divine Connections, if we could provide some money so they would stay in business.
Yeah.
I was told directly from the chair of budget at that time that there was no money for it, only to find out afterwards that there was. So these kinds of decisions that we make right now will matter when the next child care provider says, hey, I'm going to close my doors unless I fix my roof.
Yeah.
So I want people to know that we can do these things. It is possible.
The money is there.
Yeah.
It's a question of priorities. Yeah.
And it's a question of if you show up.
Yeah,
too,
right.
Because when you show up, that's how we got COVID money. That's how we got $750,000 for childcare providers, because childcare providers showed up and all of a sudden the tune changed.
Yeah.
So it's also,
like you said, it's like the sunlight shining in, and all of a sudden the calculation changes, right? Yeah. Like everybody's watching, everybody's paying attention to the details of what's happening. And then there's the compulsion maybe isn't to just sort of make nice with certain colleagues who will be upset if you don't make nice with them. The compulsion is to do right by your community.
Yeah. It's also exceedingly hopeful. I really think that, like, in the midst of all of this, like, there is so much hope. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. Like, I don't think either of us would be running if there wasn't a lot of hope in it.
Yeah.
So,
you know what? Can we talk just really briefly about a potential special session?
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you have any kind of thoughts, insights, hopes on that?
I do. So, sort of initially when I heard that there was sort of this talk, and there has been for a while, around special session, not just because of the recent violence, the ongoing violence rather, but because of budget concerns with the Trump administration making these really intense cuts to core essential services for people. So in education and in healthcare specifically, and worried about how our state is going to handle that. So we've been talking about the possibility of a special session around that previously. There's a lot of talk about how we're going to deal with those cuts going into the next session. But then, of course, with the recent mass killings, there is a sort of renewed energy around, like, we got to get there. We got to pass some meaningful gun safety measures to protect our kids, to protect our communities. And this is something that I have been fighting for a while. I have actually a bill that provides for an assault weapons ban that has sort of languished in the Senate and has never actually been given a hearing. And through that process of filing that bill and sort of experiencing what it is like to carry a piece of gun safety legislation, I really got to see how intense the issue is for legislators who are trying to make get any movement or any change in that area at all. And so, in regard to this potential special session, I was sort of surprised to hear it, frankly, because I felt like, well, I got this bill. It hasn't gone anywhere. And as far as I know, we don't have the votes for that, even within the DFL umbrella. Like, even our people, we don't have everybody on board to vote for my bill, for example. And there's a couple of other bills that people have in the Senate that I was led to believe like those bills aren't going anywhere because we don't have the votes to actually pass them. So at the time, they're more sort of symbolic bills of like, this is what we should be doing, people. So I was sort of surprised that there was even talk of a special session, because I'm wondering, well, what's the plan to pass those bills into law? And I think that there's a lot of value in just having a vote, or having votes, a series of votes on different measures to try to address the outrageous gun violence that we have in our country. I mean, I think that there's just value in that. Yeah, I think people should just stay tuned. We'll see. The legislature is all abuzz talking about if this would happen, how it would happen. There's a lot of safety concerns at the Capitol after the assassination of Melissa Hortman and her husband, the political assassination of them this summer, and the assault and attempted murder of my colleague John Hoffman in the Senate and his family. So, yeah, there's just a lot of unanswered questions about what it would look like if we went into special session. There's also, when we have a special session in the legislature, there's certain things to consider, because it's almost like having a mini session. So if we went into a special session, there's some question about, what would the rules be for that special session? Could we even agree to them between the parties and between the bodies, the House and the Senate? Could we figure out what a special session would look like? Would there be an agreement on what we were going to work on or not work on? So those are the conversations that I think are happening right now before there would actually be an announcement of a special session. But I have gotten a lot of correspondence from Duluthians, from people around the state, in support of my assault weapons ban, asking me about it, and also just in support of having a special session and taking action now, like doing it right now while we have this real sense of urgency, and we have for so long. I mean, it's just, But I would encourage people that if they want to see action on this, you're going to have to sort of dig in and find out which legislators support the measures that you are wanting to see, and which aren't or haven't made it clear, and really dig in with those legislators. Ask for a meeting, ask for, send them correspondence, see if you can get a group of constituents together, of neighbors together, and see if they'll meet with you to really hear out your concerns and hear what legislation that you are asking them to vote for. There's going to have to be a lot of work done if we're going to actually move forward with something like this. And just the numbers in the Senate and the House, and it'd be pretty tricky.
I appreciate too you saying that this isn't new violence. It's this ongoing stream of violence that as it continues, there's more and more likelihood of you seeing it nearby. We're seeing that in Duluth, even with the recent threats against Laura MacArthur, someone who did have those weapons at home.
So little kids, this is just insane. And it's so interesting. I do think that we're experiencing this generational divide in some ways around this issue. I know my colleague Zainab Mohammed, who is the state senator for the area of Minneapolis where the Annunciation murders and shootings just took place. And she also is introducing a version of now an assault weapons ban and trying to push forward with some of that stuff. But she was noting, she's a much younger person than I am. And she said, she's grown up with this violence. It has to stop. Like ever since she's been in school, they've had these outrageous, these drills of training children about how to prepare for a murderer coming in with these deadly weapons to kill you and your friends and your teacher. I mean, I remember when, I remember when Columbine happened, but then when Sandy Hook happened, also, I remember feeling just how off the rails our society was going in terms of the gun violence. And not just the gun violence, but our reaction to it.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, like we're just sort of compartmentalizing it as like, well, what do we do? Well, there's a lot of things that we should be doing, right? There's a lot of things that we could do and that we should have done decades ago now. But yeah, I don't know if I wonder if that generational difference will have some effect going forward, that all of these kids who are now, in their 20s, even early 30s, who've been through this their whole lives are finally gonna say enough is enough. And how could you have let this happen to our society over time like this? So yeah, I sincerely hope that we can get something passed and especially as soon as possible. That'd be great. But people will have to buckle down and insist that it happen if it is to happen. I still think that there's a possibility that it wouldn't happen. I know Governor Walz is set on it. He's saying it's going to happen. And I admire his determination. But whether we have the votes to actually pass protections or not is going to be another question.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Some of the organizing that's given me the most hope is from kids who have organized around this and around environmental justice to say this has been our whole lives, and we're facing a radically different world than you and I thought we were gonna be facing at this time.
Yeah.
It's wild to think about my kid one day going to school and going through those drills.
I know, right?
I remember
gosh.
Yeah.
I really struggled with it for a while, like even wanting my kids to do the drills at all. Because I feel like the drills themselves are really traumatizing. I went through one at the St. Louis County Courthouse. I remember when I was working there as a law clerk. And it was I just kind of gave me nightmares.
Yeah.
The whole imagining what this is going to be like and actually like walking through and kind of doing a pretend like, oh, we're dead. And then like telling us that like when the police come, like it would be normal that you'd be just like laying there like bleeding out, or that you would have to be treated like you are a suspect until they know you're not a suspect. It was just like so it was just so awful. I never wanted my kids to go through with it. We had a huge big family conversation and talked to the kids about it, and then the kids actually did want to do it so that they would know the things that all their peers knew and that their teacher knew and stuff. But we talked a lot about it and processed a lot about it, and it's so scary. Yeah, it's so wrong.
Hope I don't have to have that talk with my kid.
I hope things change by then.
Scared that I will.
I know.
Yeah, and I think that's why something I've been thinking a lot about is that I do think the most dangerous thing that politicians have done is really limit our ideas around what is possible.
Yeah.
And that we have to be part of creating and pushing forward an idea of a very different future.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Well, here's hoping that there's a special session.
Yeah, I hope so.
At the end of this, we're going to put some notes. It won't be an all-inclusive list, but some links to different action items, ways you can get involved. Of course, feel free to share with us if you want us to share some events that are happening. I know Moms Demand Action just had their monthly meeting. They're always a great space to get involved. County board meetings are most Tuesdays at 9:30 a.m., which I know is not a super convenient time. And then we'll have our contact information too.
Yeah, sounds great.
So thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Hang in there.